Alright, this is episode 377 of the Hockey Show. Action.
Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking about the Winnipeg Jets and how they are frauds. Because this team, ever since the beginning of this season, they've been on fire. They have just bewildered everyone. No one knew that they were going to be good, and no one thought they were going to at least be a top contending team in the NHL. And here we are. They are battling. At one point, they were number one in the league. They're still battling and could get up there as they're 93 points. Top teams are at 95. They're right there for the grabbing of that number one, the President's Trophy. No one would have saw that coming. Everyone thought at the beginning of the year they're going to sell away Mark Scheifele. They're going to sell away Connor Hellebuck. Who knows who else is out the way out. They sign 8-year contracts, both of them, and they are absolutely on fire. And this team, there is no sign of them slowing down. And I assumed at some point that the afterburners were going to stop on this team because it just didn't seem right. It didn't feel like them in Vancouver. Like, it just felt like those two teams were destined to be mid at best, especially with a team like the Jets. They definitely seemed like the team that was going to be mid, not maybe contending, wild card maybe, and then sell away at the trade deadline and then get some assets back. But no, they signed their guys, and they're still good. So, this team, mid to bad this season, now contending for the number one spot. But are they going to be contending for the number one spot in the NHL playoffs and win Lord Stanley's Cup? I don't think so. I am not 100% sold on this team. Currently 93 points with a record of 44, 19, and 5. So they're up there. They are up there with the Panthers, with the Bruins, with the Vancouver Canucks, contending for the number one spot for the President's Trophy. But this team just doesn't sell me. They're 15th in goals for, okay? So really they're literally the epitome of mid in the NHL. When it comes to scoring goals, when it comes to goals against, they are number one. And that is for one man alone, and I'll talk more about him later. But when it comes to power play and penalty kill, 21st and 21st in both categories, this team just is not stellar at enough things. And you take a look at a team like the Vegas Golden Knights and the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Colorado Avalanche. You look at those teams and think, okay, what do they have to win the Stanley Cup? They have all the stats down. Every single one of those categories. You take a look at the Florida Panthers last year, and especially the Vegas Golden Knights. Those two teams have goaltending that is holding them down so good. Defense that can at least keep the other team at bay and not have too much pressure going, at least at most times. They have offense that is able to just keep the pressure going in the offensive zone and get good chances down the lineup. The Jets just don't sell me enough of that. For offense, let's start off with offense, the top of the lineup, okay? It is strong. They have a super good offense. But it isn't this elite level of like Vegas, of like the Florida Panthers, of the Bruins, of the Vancouver Canucks, or the Maple Leafs, or the Dallas Stars. I mean, all the playoff teams that I can list, they are like probably out of the 6 teams that make it in, they are probably in like the lower, like closer to 10 than they are to closer to 1. And that's what this team they aren't overpowering on that, right? Guys like Kyle Connor, superstar at being so fast and can just shoot on net and just powder the net in goals, right? But he isn't a big body. He's not a Matthew Tkachuk. He's not going to be that kind of guy. He rubs me more of like a Sebastian Aho who's going to get, who can score more than Sebastian Aho, but he needs to be set up. He's not going to be the lone wolf like Tkachuk and get the job done. Who is? Mark Scheifele? Not really. Scheifele is definitely more of the two-way center that is going to contribute offensively, but is not going to win you those games. And the biggest thing about the offense that scares me is that we saw this offense last year in the playoffs. Sure, with some more padding of Gabe Vilardi, who's now out, so not him. But you have, like, Iafallo, you now bring in, like, Tyler Toffoli. Like, you bring in some guys that definitely strengthen this team a lot. But there's absolutely still something missing to push them over that line and go, yeah, they can challenge a team like the Florida Panthers when they get to the finals, and guy like Bobrovsky and the defense of them are able, they're not going to overthrow a team like that, right? So for them, the offense is going to have to be the secondary option, right? They're not going to be able to punish another team offensively in their own defensive zone. They are going to have to push back and find those chances and get those timely scoring, right? They're going to need a guy to play like Kachuk. They're going to need a guy to play like Jack Eichel and Marchessault. They need that from someone. And Toffoli, he's done that in the playoffs, especially with like the Canadians in the past. So he could maybe be that guy, but I don't know if he really has that in him anymore. Kyle Connor, I'm a huge fan of him. But I don't know. No one on this team really sells me there. And last year in the playoffs, they were just dumpster fire. Like, I don't know what else to say. They were sad to look against playing Vegas. Vegas had all the power in the world against them, and the Winnipeg Jets just couldn't hold anything to the Knights. Nothing. They won one game in that series, and it only felt like they won because Vegas didn't show up for a game. Winnipeg had nothing going for them. This year, it's a different team, so I guess we'll see what happens. But defensively, they are strong. They're ninth currently in shots against for games played, so they're pretty good at stopping the other team from shooting on their own net. And then they also have an amazing backstop, so I'll get there in a second. But right now, this team can produce defensively. They got guys like Neil Pionk. They got guys especially like Josh Morrissey, who they can put out there on most of the game. And those two guys can help put the puck in the other team's net as well, right? So they do have that power from the back, but they also are very good at shutting down the other team most of the time. At least getting too many dangerous chances and too many shots against. They can block shots as well. With guys like Brendan Dillon on this team, this team, they've got defense down enough. But it's the same kind of story again, where the defense is solid, but it doesn't rank up there against other teams that are going to be in the playoffs, right? And other teams, you take a look at a team like the Dallas Stars, right? They are up there contending for maybe best offense going in. They're up there for maybe best defense and maybe up there for best goaltending, right? They're getting the nominations, right? The Jets, I don't know how many people no one's going to really put them on the ballot for nomination for best offense in the playoffs. They're not going to put them up for the ballot for defense, maybe the runner-up to making it in. But where they do win that category, most likely, is Connor Hellebuck. Shutting down every other team in the league, no matter what. Connor Hellebuck, this, in my opinion, is his best season in the NHL. And he is just the toughest brick wall. And it's kind of crazy, because you do look at some players, and like goaltenders, right? You watch the highlights on YouTube, and you like go on there, and you see, like, you know, best saves of all time, right? Connor Hellebuck never really shows up. But that's because he is so, like, level-headed, and he never is that far out of position that he just shuts down everything, right? He's not flashy. He just stops everything. A guy like Jonathan Quick, you know, he's got so many highlights on there that all the time you're looking at the highlights, you know, he's going over here back and forth, reaching across the net, stretching, and just making you, if you tried to move like he did, you would rip yourself in half. Connor Hellebuck, first, he's huge. Second of all, he doesn't do that. He's just in position. He doesn't need to make those crazy jumping saves. He just is there for the save. And he is just the most consistently good goaltender. And he's never streaky. And this guy alone gives this team a chance. Because we saw in the playoffs last year that a good goaltender like Sergei Bobrovsky, or in other teams in the past, even a guy like Darcy Kemper gave the Coyotes a chance a little bit against like a team that was going to shut them down all the time in the Avalanche. A guy like Darcy Kemper gave them a little bit of a chance. What one goaltender that is unstoppable and just refuses to lose gives a team such a strong chance? And right now, Hellebuck, no matter what team they play against, gives their team a chance. But what worries me again is that we saw what happened last year with a team like Bobrovsky or a guy like Jake Ottinger, is that eventually, no matter what happens, that these goaltenders, last year, they ran into a team like Vegas that made them look like they were just, they made them look like, instead of like a pristine wall of like Buckingham Palace, to like some random rundown destroyed building that was exploded. Like, that's what worries me, is Hellebuck cannot do it alone. And I do not know if I believe in the overall team that they can save him from being the only thing they need to win the Stanley Cup. And for me, the Jets, this team is deep. offensively and defensively. They've got an incredible, one of the best of all-time goaltenders in Connor Hellebuck. They have all of that and the talent and high-end talent as well. But what worries me is it's the playoff talent. And you look at a guy like the Penguins, right, where you have Crosby and Jake Gensel and Brian Rust. Like you have, well, not Gensel anymore, but you get like their playoff runs. That they have guys showing up in the lineup and playing strong. Last year, and we've seen in the past, do guys like Mark Scheifele produce like that? I don't know. When the Jets went on that big playoff run a few years ago, made to the conference finals against the Vegas Golden Knights, it was guys like Patrick Laine who were scoring goals. It was guys down the lineup that were scoring the goals. It wasn't Kyle Connor was kind of part of it, but you get what I mean. I don't know if they have the guys to overpower a team like Vegas, where Vegas can dummy guys and they can bounce them off of them and keep powdering the net until Hellebuck can't stop anymore. And for me, it's really up to who shows up. Does Toffoli play like that goal scorer that we know he has in the past? Does Kyle Connor score those timely goals where he can consistently score a goal, maybe every game, maybe every other game, but be consistently on the goal scoring sheet? Can a guy like Mark Scheifele help produce offense? And do guys like Neil Pionk play like they did last year in the playoffs? And do Josh Morrissey, do those guys help make assists happen and make plays happen? If they can't, they're not going to be able to rely only on defense, because defense will crumble faster than offense will. And that's all I got to say. So for the Jets, for me, they have a good chance. But it's as long as everything comes together. And I don't think that'll happen. For me, I think the Jets have a pretty good chance in the first round depending on who they play. But I don't know. Because if they don't end up in the first place spot and they end up against Dallas or the Avs, I would say no. It depends on when they run into those two teams. If they run into the Avs in the first round or Dallas, out. Second round, out. That's it. So they're out in one of the first two rounds. They're not making it to the conference finals. And that is my prediction for them. So that's all I got to say. So thank you for watching this. If you made it this far, please, I'm begging you, pick up your free subscription down below. And until the next episode, too sweet, have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.